Let's predict where HYLIION is going. What is happening, investors? It is your boy Jack. I am not a financial advisor. I got the t-shirt to say it. And today we're speaking about HYLIION. An awful lot of hype in regards to this company right now. In the span of a week and a half, we've gone up over 50% in value. Pre-market today, we're currently up, as of recording this video, over 3.5%. It's been going absolutely crazy. What I want to do in today's video is something that I personally don't do very often. I want to try and set some realistic price targets for this company in the short term. Now, the reason I don't do this very often, especially with a SPAC, one where the merger has not even gone through, is because there is an awful lot of assumptions and speculation that go into doing so. A lot of people like to compare what happened with Nikola to what may happen with HYLIION, but the truth is, people, at the end of the day, we don't know what's going to happen. But what I am going to do is try to come up with some sort of an idea as to what may happen. And in order to do that, we're going to be having a look at the pro forma valuation. We're going to have a look at what kind of order history we have. We're going to have a look at how the overall EV market is expected to grow going forwards. And more specifically, how Class 8 vehicles and just EV trucks in general are expected to grow over the years. Now, I do really want to stress that again, when trying to value a company at this stage of its life cycle, it's really difficult to do so, and there is a lot of speculation involved. And that is why I shy away from doing it a lot of the time, but a lot of people have been asking me where I think HYLIION stock could very realistically go, so let's speak about it, baby. Right before we get into the video, thank you all so much for 25,000 subs. It is mind-blowing. That is a quarter of the way to 100,000. That is absolutely insane, people. I genuinely appreciate you all so much for the continued support, your kind words. It all means a lot to me. So can I please ask you to hit that juicy like button, people? It helps me and the channel out so much. If you're new around here, hit the juicy red subscribe button, join the family. It's free. And drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you think about HYLIION. If you're invested, what your cheeky cost basis is. And with that being said, let's get into the video, people. And in the interest of transparency, I am invested in this company. I have 40 shares with a cost basis of $20.98. So, it's not the biggest position in the world, but it is performing quite well. And in today's video, I'll also answer the question towards the end, do I plan on buying more around these current price points? On the monthly chart, people, we're up over 65%. As I said, from last Wednesday, August 12th, we are actually up over 50%. It's been absolutely insane. And as of right now, with a share price of $29.91, we can see that we have a market cap of $871.16 million. So as of right now, there is a pro forma implied market capitalization of the combined company of over $1.5 billion. The transaction includes an upsized $325 million fully committed PIPE, and the proceeds will be used to fully fund the commercialization and mass production of the company's electrified powertrain solutions. So pro forma implied market cap $1.5 billion. And that pro forma is coming from a $10 per share PIPE subscription price, and assuming no public shareholders have Tortoise Acquisition Corp exercise their redemption rights. So sitting at $30 a share right now, we consider the market cap to actually go up considerably when the merger does happen. So I suppose the biggest question is, is it overvalued right now? Is it too late to get involved for one if you're not in yet and you're thinking about it? Personally, I definitely don't think so by any means whatsoever. Let's speak about some of the reasons why. So there's this survey that was done by Mortenson, all the way back in 2019, and this was initially brought to my attention when I was researching Workhorse. So clean transportation is coming. 23% of today's fleets are clean, and 48% of fleets will be clean in 5 to 7 years. I think at this stage we all know there is going to be an absolutely massive market for EV going forwards. And, Class 8 vehicles and semi-trucks in general aren't going to be any different. Now, next I want to bring you to something we've actually gone through before, the Global EV Outlook Report for 2020. And in particular, these paragraphs regarding electrifying heavy-duty trucks. Opportunities for electrification can be seized over the coming decade, even in modes where emissions are hard to abate, such as heavy-duty trucks, aviation, and shipping. Global sales of electric trucks hit a record in 2019 with over 6,000 units. So that sentence right off the bat is very optimistic. It's very good. It says good things. Global sales of electric buses hit a record in 2019 with over 6,000 units. A record. High power chargers are being developed and standardized globally. Research on dynamic charging concepts as well as demonstrations of Cantory line solutions may enable expansion of the range of operations for heavy duty and long distance operations for regional buses and long haul trucking. So essentially we can see that electric trucks becoming more and more popular right off the bat. Another article by ID Tech EX, electric trucks 2020 to 2030. One sentence I want to take from here, medium and heavy duty trucks represent only 9% of the global vehicle stock. 9% is absolutely nothing to sneeze at. But the thing is, large inefficient diesel truck engines combined with high average annual mileage means that the truck sector contributes 39% of the transport sector's greenhouse gas emissions, which equates to 5% of all global fossil fuels derived CO2 emissions. So this is a particular subsector in EV that needs EV potentially more than anyone, with the argument of maybe airlines. The engines are inefficient, okay? The amount of greenhouse gases that are being put into the air is terrible. Keep in mind, guys, the people who own medium and heavy duty trucks, okay, they are businesses. You don't have your everyday person cruising down to Tesco or to whatever shop it is you're going to pick up the groceries in a Class 8 semi-truck. These are businesses, and EV is more efficient in every single way possible. Potentially, most importantly to a business, financially. So there are some of these terrible statistics in regards to, how expensive they are and how bad they are for the environment. And now there are these EV solutions that fix those issues. A majority of manufacturers are investing heavily in all electric trucks, which appear to be winning the total cost of ownership battle against diesel by the end of the 2020s. I mean, I think that's going to happen way sooner. ID Tech EX forecasts the penetration of electric trucks into the global medium and heavy duty market to be 9.4% by 2030. Now this is an important statistic because we can use this to estimate how many trucks are going to be EV by 2030, and we can try and come up with what sort of a market share HYLIION can potentially expect to get from that. And that then gives us a more realistic way of, trying to figure out what the share price could potentially be. Now I want you to have a look at this. The US electric vehicle sales forecast 2019 to 2028. Now obviously this doesn't include just trucks, but it's going to give us a fairly good idea of the general trend. And we can see that it compounds annually. The amount of new EV sales every single year goes up and up at a compound rate. And when we look at California, we can see it go up even faster, which is actually very important because of things like, HVIP eligibility, etc. Other government incentives. So here is another article on EVs in general by the ICCT organization, and this is their segment on zero emission trucks. And honestly, not too much of it interests me until we get to the conclusions, okay? We can see electric vehicle growth, 60% plus annual growth rate. 2 million EVs per year and growing. And then another thing I want to point out is this: the EV truck market in Europe is waking up. We do get caught up in America an awful lot of the time, but if you're going to be looking 10 plus years down the line, the biggest companies aren't going to just be in the US or North America even. They're going to be worldwide. The next logical step is going to be Europe, then China. In 2019, diesel accounted for 97.9% of all new trucks in Europe, but EVs doubled in sales volume. And guys, I'm not worried about how small of a percentage of the market EV is just yet. It's about the growth rate. Because I have said this in previous videos, EV, in my opinion, is essentially inevitable. It has to happen at some stage. So the faster growth we see, the more market opportunity it shows me, which in turn means the higher of a share price we could see HYLIION have. So essentially, by having a look at all of these different kind of articles, we see one major trend, and that being that the electric vehicle market and the electric truck market are growing extremely, and I mean extremely quickly. The next thing I want to show you is this. California wants 300,000 electric trucks, of which 17,000 are semi-trucks, by 2035. By 2045, all trucks have to be electric. There's estimates of 15.5 million trucks operating in the US right now. Of this figure, 2 million are tractor trailers. I know I kind of rambled on about a whole lot of different statistics there, but what I really wanted to get across was just how big this industry that HYLIION is trying to penetrate could be in, the next 10 years or even further out in the next 25 years. One other thing I want to point out quickly, this is just from the investor's presentation. Agility has already pre-ordered 1,000 of the Hypertruck ERXs. There is a demand here. These guys have a physical product. It is out there on the road right now. If we scroll back up to the top, one of the first things you see in the investor presentation is this: 335 HYLIION Hypertruck ERXs eliminate 1 million metric tons of CO2. Now, to make things really simple, in HYLIION's investor presentation, they say this. They say there's about an $800 billion replacement market opportunity. 8 million trucks in operation and projected to grow, as we just went through, 944,000 trucks sold annually. Now, this is where things get really tough to evaluate. There's an $800 billion replacement market opportunity. How much of that market can HYLIION realistically expect to get? I mean, if you say 10%, and that means you get $80 billion worth of that replacement market, that makes their current market cap look ridiculous. Now, obviously, that is before you realistically take into account, what the net profit will actually be, what the forward earnings multiples will actually be, their operating margins, etc, etc. But I think in this video so far, we've made it very clear that there is a massive market opportunity here, and there are not much major competitors by any means whatsoever. I mean, these guys offer powertrain solutions. They can be used on any Class 8 vehicle that is out there. Now, I think at this stage, everybody on the channel understands how I feel about Nikola, but I always see people comparing HYLIION to Nikola in regards to what's going to happen when the merger actually goes through. When the merger went through with Nikola, the share price went up over 100% in one day. It went up another 20+% the following day. Since then, we saw a massive sell-off, okay? An absolutely massive sell-off. They were down over 65% from the highs. They're back up now, but all in all, they're sitting at about $39, when they were up as high as nearly $80. What I will also say is right now Nikola has a market cap of $4.92 billion. I also want to show you guys Nikola's float is currently 145.5 million. HYLIION's float on the other hand is 21.76 million. This essentially means there is less publicly traded shares in circulation for HYLIION than there is for Nikola, which could lead to increased volatility, and it's easier to liquidate, and in turn that could lead to bigger movements even than we saw happen with Nikola. One thing I would also like to point out is that we're not even at all-time highs right now. Now, today, this could well happen, but the initial hype of HYLIION went all the way up to $31.84 a share. As of right now, we're at $29.91. Pre-market, we're at $31.40. Attempting to evaluate what could happen with this company when the merger goes through is next to impossible. It's complete and utter speculation. I mean, if we're to follow what happened with Nikola, this company could easily go up 100-200% in a day. And again, it will more than likely proceed to come back down to some sort of an actual fair value. My expectation at this stage genuinely is we're going to see something between a $50 and $70 share price if the merger goes through by the back end of September, which we expect it to. But again, it's so tough to call. That comes down to psychology. That comes down to how people feel on the day. That comes down to how much fear of missing out gets involved. That comes into how many people run away with their profits early or late. It comes down to a whole lot of things that aren't even to do with the company. It just comes down to the psychology of the investors. In the long term though, people, in the long term, just remember this. Right now we have a market cap of $871 million. There is an $800 billion replacement market opportunity. And that number, by the way, is only going to go up and up and up, judging by the statistics we've all gone through earlier on in the video. If HYLIION can very realistically get 10% of that market share within even 10 to 15 years, let's just say that this share price is going to look much more attractive in 10 to 15 years than it does now. Even if over the next few years, HYLIION gets 1% of that market share, which should very well be a possibility, considering we already have orders coming in. Based off of just 1%, we could easily see this stock's price go up over a couple 100% in a matter of only a few years. Honestly, I think for the rest of this year, absolutely anything could happen. I genuinely do think it's going to be more fear of missing out and psychology, as I just said, than anything else, than any fundamentals, any profits made, blah blah blah. And the other thing is, guys, in regards to EV, we often trade at really high multiples right now because people have to look towards the future. Even if we're looking 5 or 10 years down the future, people are willing to pay far more than, a fair price for these EV companies. Look at Tesla trading at a PE ratio of 1,050 people. This was their first 4 quarters in a row ever being profitable, and we're seeing this kind of PE ratio for a company that is as well as established as Tesla. And I think what I'm saying is fairly fair to what HYLIION actually expect for themselves. If we look at their 2024 estimate, they're putting their revenue at just over $2 billion in 2024, and that only reflects a 2.2% of a $94 billion annual addressable market. And if you look at the growth percentage year over year, I see no reason why this going up as far as even 2030 can't stay above 30 to 50% every single year. In 2020 right now, we have very little revenue. In 2021, we more than likely could see some decent revenue, but 2022 is when things are going to get really exciting. So I mean, if you want to be a long-term investor in HYLIION, be ready to hold for a very long time. There is no doubt in my mind this will be a high 3-digit stock one day in the future. In the short term, absolutely anything could happen with this company. I really want to stress that, people. Before the merger happens, know if you are going to be a long-term investor or a short-term investor. Know if you plan on taking profits or just forgetting about it for years and years. Have a plan with a company like this, because with such a low float and so much hype, it's going to be very, and I mean very volatile, potentially even more than Nikola once the merger goes through, and I do not say that lightly. So in the short term, my price target is anywhere from kind of $50 to $70. That may seem like a very bold statement, but that is what I expect if all goes to plan. But again, I'm not a financial advisor. I have a clothing line out to prove that fact, and anything can happen, especially with really high risk companies like EV in general. So please don't go ahead and buy into the hype if you haven't done your due diligence and if you don't believe in the company. And I really mean that. Don't buy these just because I am, or because there's a lot of YouTube videos on them. We have really high risk tolerances, okay? If something really bad happens and HYLIION loses 50% of its value, I'm fine. I don't care. There is a lot of people out there who that could absolutely crush them. So don't invest if you cannot afford to, if you do not understand the company. Please listen to this part. But anyway, guys, that is what I believe could happen with HYLIION going forwards in the short and long term. So guys, once more, I really want to stress the fact to you guys that you should not be investing in a company like this if you don't have a risk tolerance, if you can't afford to be in the red, because anything could happen, especially with the amazing run we've seen in the last week and a half. And I fully expect there to be lots lots of good and lots of bad days in the short term. I think it's just the fact that I'm giving out, you know, really optimistic comments that I want to make that extra clear, that just because that's what I'm saying does not mean it's going to happen. And as I made clear at the start of the video, it's all guesswork. It is very speculative what is going to happen to a growth company like this in the short term. But anyway guys, if you have watched until the end of the video, I really do appreciate you. You, my friend, are a true legend, and I hope I was able to give you some value and entertainment. If I was, could I please ask you to hit that juicy like button? It genuinely helps me out so much. Subscribe if you're new around here, join the family, and drop me a comment down below. Those things really help me out. And with all that being said guys, I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day. I will see you for the next video. Peace.